Welcome to See You in the Lobby.
We're back.
We are back, and we have a very, very, very special guest, family to me, Kristi Toliver. What's up, KT?
What's up?
We are very happy to have you in the lobby. We got to get you here, actually here this summer.
Which we will,
Yeah,
because
she's back with the
she's
Mystics.
back.
But I'm just going to jump right into it. March Madness, obviously, you and I have some very, very fond memories.
What'd you guys do?
Yeah, it's just something minor.
Oh.
Let's work our way back though. Let's save the best for last. Let's talk senior year, that Louisville game, and like I always talk to Matt about it. I was like, that one's just always gonna sting because we were a Final Four team that year. You and I definitely were out to prove a lot that season because once Lang, Harp, Ash, and the crew left, everybody counted us out. And I think we were the second or third number one seed that year.
I don't remember, but I just knew that was the first time we were ever a number one seed.
Oh, because was Stanford the number one our junior year? I thought we were number one and Stanford was two.
You're right. That's right, because I wanted the number two seed because I was like, number two is the lucky number. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be number one. I want to be number two.
Yeah. But what do you remember about that game? Like senior year, especially after coming off ACC. We won our first ACC title, regular season and in tournament. Like had a lot of momentum. We were like the dynamic duo that season, and then came up against a hot Louisville.
Yeah. Obviously that's not one of the fun ones. But what I do remember about that one was, Walsh was on the other sideline, and it's like obviously he knew us extremely well, and he's such a good coach and is always prepared and always has something up his sleeve. And so I remember them like coming out there like playing a zone and like throwing all kinds of different looks at us. And we just, I don't know, like we just didn't have it that day.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it was they just outperformed or we were just like a step behind. But it was in Raleigh, it was in North Carolina, so we were kind of like, oh, we're kind of close to home, and like we had our people there still, and yeah, it just didn't go the way that we wanted.
Yeah.
And what I really remember is like being subbed out for the last time and having Yemi just like hold me, just like laying in her big shoulders, just like so sad and like not believing like that was it, and like we didn't get back to the Final Four because we certainly belong there. We had the team to do it, and just a super bummer and letdown, and something I like to forget.
Yeah, that was literally awful. Like when you said like you collapsing in Yemi's arms, like I just remember getting subbed out too and like collapsing in Coach B's arms and like sobbing, and then like Matt had to come get me and like basically carry me to the bench. Like it was so devastating. Yeah. All right. Well, now that we talked the sad stuff, we won't go the other 2 years. We'll skip those. But let's go to freshman year. Like I always tell Matt, like we were just these naive freshmen that came in literally thinking we could accomplish anything and everything. I think, well, for the people, KT and I committed on the same day together. Like KT and I have known each other since we were 14. I remember meeting her for the first time in person at an AAU tournament in Virginia, and KT's just naturally quiet. So like see her the whole day and then like finally like sit down and talk. And then like the friendship just started then. But she was in town. We were up at Maryland and we basically were like, let's do this. Like, let's do this together. So we committed together same day on campus. And Coach Jay, who's now at Boston College, she's their head coach. She had just got married, right? So she was on her honeymoon.
Yeah.
So we took a bunch of Post-it notes and posted all in her office. It's official. It's official. It's official. So when she got back, she thought it was just like that she's officially married, and they're like, no, like Kristi and Marissa committed. But
wait,
no,
I need to hear more about the process of actually you guys both deciding that you were going to link up and commit on the same day. Like how did it go? Did you just had that one convo in person? And you're like, this is it. How give me some more context.
When you're being recruited, like part of what coaches do is like if they know you're friends with somebody or there's somebody like they're trying to recruit out of your class, so put you in touch or kind of plant that seed. But at that stage, I feel like you, me, Harp were like super tight, right? Like Lang hadn't really come into the mix yet. It was like the three of us, like always talking and always hanging out. And And then I think we just all knew we wanted to do something special. We all could have went to UConn. We all could have went to Tennessee. Like we all were literally recruited by everybody. Harp actually committed to UConn. Then called Kristi and I crying like, I don't want to go there. We're like, well, why did you do that? But it was just, we all knew we didn't want to go be just another player, just another championship. We knew we had like those pieces could be the first. I don't know, KT, what do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I remember, like wanting to create history, wanting to make history, and not just being one of the other championships that obviously UConn had accumulated. But for me, it was really like Riss is the one that pulled me to Maryland, because for me, I was just talking to one of our players about this the other day. We were just talking about the recruiting process and everything. And I was like, they were like, who's your top three? And I said, well, it was Virginia Tech because I loved Coach Bonnie Hendricks, who then she left and went to Kansas. So I was like, all right, well, they're out. And then it was up to Maryland and UConn. And I grew up, I was just a UConn fanatic, like Sue, D, like I was everything UConn. But obviously the relationship that I had with Riss and Harp, it just felt like, it felt special. It felt right. And so to me, it was like, Riss was the reason, she was the one that pulled me in. She was like the final common denominator of like, all right, this is where we're going to be. This is what we're going to do. And I even remember at WBCA, when we went there and we were watching the semifinal of the Final Four, because that's what they do. They take you and then you get to watch, like we're in the nosebleeds, but we're just watching and we're like, that's going to be us. And like, I remember Riss and I saying like, yo, like that's going to be us next year. Like we're going to be in the Final Four. Like we're going to win it. Like, blah, 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 blah. So like, whether we just like spoke that into existence as 17-year-olds, like we were just believers, like from the jump. And so like, I was just super excited and I knew like we were just going to like, the paths were going to cross, like everything was just aligning in the right way. And like for me, like Maryland needed a point guard, their senior point guard had just graduated. So I'm like, all right, we can, get to work right away. It's like, I don't have to wait behind anybody or anything like that. Like I wanted to play, I wanted to win, and I wanted to be with good people. And we were able to do that in year one.
I was going to say, UConn didn't have the prestige for you, obviously, but you were that fan. Did people think you guys were kind of crazy for turning down what at that point was like the team?
Oh, yeah, I remember like in high school, so many, and like we're very athletic. Like athletics is a big thing at St. John's. But college coaches were coming all the time to watch games, watch workouts. So like Gino's at my school, Pat Summit's at my school, like Gail Gessencourt. There's all these like notable coaches in the women's game that even if you're not a women's basketball fan, like who Gino and Pat are at my school. And then when I commit to Maryland, they're all like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, are you kidding me? Like, they didn't see the vision, obviously. And then, I mean, when you're 16, 17, 18, you think those big schools, like some people didn't like see what we were trying to do. So yeah, people definitely, I mean, it was so bad, KT, that they put us under investigation because they're like, how is Brenda getting all these players? She has to be paying them.
Legit, that was weird. I was like, so wait, I was like, what's happening? Like, why are we going to this conference room and like meeting individually with these people? Like, I don't understand.
It was crazy.
But yeah, people thought it was nuts. And I can allude to that too. Like having Gino, like I remember Gino like flew in his like little private little baby plane into like Shenandoah Valley Airport. Like I'm from like nowhere. And like all my like friends and like our student section are like, oh my God, that's Gino. Like, oh my God. And then when we went to Maryland, they were like, okay.
Yeah, they
cool
didn't
guess.
get
like,
it.
Whatever.
What do you even say when you're under investigation for something that clearly didn't exist?
I think we were just all so frustrated because we were like, we knew Coach Beaton didn't do anything like outside of the books. Like she's just a very good recruiter. And I think it was hard for people to see or to understand how she just had like back-to-back top like 3 recruiting classes. Like KT, it was just KT and I in our class, and we were the number 2 recruiting class in the country. So people are just like, what, like, how is she doing this? But it really was like, a lot of it was just organic and like the vibes. Like I truly feel like we had something like aside the championship, like what I'm most thankful for are the relationships for KT, for Lang, for Hart, for those folks. I talk to people now like, you still talk to your college teammates? I'm like that's family to me. So I just think it was a very unique situation. Just like one of those times, like KT was saying, everything just clicked. And I think like Lang and Harp, their class definitely. I mean, Shay like set the tone because Shay was Coach B's first recruit, and then it was just like kept building after that. I mean, I always wanted to go to Tennessee. It was UConn for her. It was Tennessee for me. And then when it came down to it, like nothing felt right about going to Tennessee. Like when I went to the campus, I was like, yeah, this isn't giving me good vibes.
Vibes are important.
Vibes are important.
That's super interesting. All right, walk me through then freshman year. You guys are 17 years old, 18 years old, and you're winging it and still shutting people down.
I mean, I think KT, like I said, KT and I just came in super naive, one, but also like with unwavering confidence in our game. Like we both were super highly recruited, could have went anywhere we wanted. And there was just such a buzz around what we were creating and what we were building. And we had nothing to draw it from. So it was just like, all right, yeah, we're about to win 4 championships. So I don't know, KT, what was your mindset like freshman year, moving into the dorms?
You know, I'm just glad I was academically eligible. Like my freshman year was a roller coaster. Like it was hard for me to adjust to like balancing the basketball and the studies and being on time for stuff and like
Got a
I
story
was
for that
like,
one.
yeah, I was a little like I wasn't the best. But basketball for me was like that was like number one. Like it just was. And so I
Good
think
choice.
what Coach B did with us was so good and special was like she allowed us to have that confidence. She fueled our confidence. So like when you're young and you're a freshman, like you just came from high school where like you dominated everything anyways. And so like there was a carryover. Like there was no doubt. Like they didn't throw any doubt in our minds that we couldn't accomplish whatever we wanted to. And I think that's really, really important because I know like especially in the league, like when you're around like these young guys, they try to put you in boxes and you kind of lose yourself a little bit. Like I feel like we never lost ourselves. We were always able to just be true to who we were and as players and as people. But even my freshman year, like I got hurt. Like I was out for 3 weeks, almost a month, with a stress fracture. So like I was going through the highs and lows, and luckily like Riss and Shay and everybody else, they were just holding it down. By the time we started, conference plays when I came back, and we just took off. Like there was just no doubt, and I feel like we were like probably like a 15th seed or like somewhere like in the middle. Like even to start, like we weren't like oh like yeah this team is gonna have they're gonna cut down nets at any point. But I just always like I just never felt like there was any stress, there was any pressure. Like if we just kind of stay along the right track and we keep doing what we're doing and we're building these relationships and we're competing in practice and we're getting better every single day, like we had the talent. And even if it's 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and a junior, like that didn't mean anything to us. Like we were like, let's go hoop, let's go play and compete and trust and believe in our skills and ability.
Yeah, yeah, like everything you just said is so spot on. I think when we got back from Virgin Islands from that tournament, I think that's
Mhm.
for me when I was like, oh yeah, like we got a real chance. So went
Yep.
to Virgin Islands for the Thanksgiving tournament. It was Michigan State who was just coming off Final Four, us, Tennessee, and I can't remember the fourth team.
I can't either. It wasn't anybody like it was the
Yeah.
Tennessee and the Michigan State where we were like,
It-
oh, like
and
this
we
is
were
our
like
test. Like
super
we can
hype. And I
battle
know like
Tennessee.
KT and I we weren't scared. We're like, oh, like bring like we wanted that comp. Like we wanted the big games. And I think that's what was so special about, us especially as freshmen is we wanted to play the best because we truly felt we were. But we beat Michigan State and I think handedly. I think we beat them like 15,
Mhm.
maybe 20. And then Tennessee, we lost like we had a shot to win it at the buzzer and we didn't. So I remember going toe to toe with Tennessee. I'm like, oh, like we have a real chance. And then just as the season went on in conference play, even when we played Duke, like we didn't beat Duke in the regular season, but each time we played them, you could see that we got better and we were closer. And then that game against UNC and Carmichael, like
Mhm.
that for me, I was like, okay, yeah, like we're going toe to toe with the best. We have a chance.
And it wasn't just like even like I feel like we didn't have like stars. It wasn't like now like you see like Paige and like AZ Fudd like oh yeah those are the stars. Like on our team it was like everybody was kind of like the same ish. Like we were all really good and we were all really young. So like when we competed against those guys, it was like like let's bring it on. Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter.
It didn't phase us. So let's
Yeah.
talk the epic run. Do you remember who we played in the first 2 rounds?
It was either St. Francis, it was somebody red, it was either St. John or St. Francis, one of those. I wanna say St. Francis of PA,
Okay.
or
Y'all have
it was
better
somebody like
memories than
whatever,
me.
like a mid-major-y type of
Yeah.
team.
I don't remember the first 2 rounds. And then,
You're like, ah,
Forget
cakewalk, whatever.
forget those.
no, I take that back. So then the first 2 games I don't remember yet, but then it was Baylor, Utah. And then, all right, yeah, let's talk New Mexico. So we were in that region. We land in New Mexico and there's like a virus outbreak.
Oh,
Everybody
you
is
told me
sick.
about this.
KT's like super sick, and we're all like, not now. Why now? KT like epic. Oh, like Jordan S
Like
performance.
flu? We're talking flu?
KT's like getting IVs before the game and taking all these pills. And would you have 28 that game?
Yeah, I remember this very well. We just beat Baylor, so we were moving on. This is the Elite Eight game to get to the Final Four, and that's when for me, I was like, I had this cockiness of like, man, like my immune system's so good, like I don't get sick. Like I remember us being at team dinner, and then like all of a sudden it was like, I was like, damn, like, I don't feel very good. So I remember going back with Walls, and like my mom like met us, and we went back to the hotel, and like as soon as I got to the hotel, like up the elevator, like it started happening, like throwing up. I'll just say diarrhea, like at the same time, like I'm on the toilet throwing up into the freaking tub, like it was bad. Like I've never felt anything like that in my life. And so Matt Charvet, our trainer at the time, gave me like this nasty, it was like this blue nasty drink, and I was like trying to chug it just to like, I guess it was supposed to either get everything out or keep everything in. I don't know what the purpose was. But I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink anything. Like I didn't sleep at all that night before. I think we might have even canceled shoot around at the arena.
We did the
Because
walkthrough in the parking lot.
Walk through outside, yeah. So like
To
we didn't
stop
even
the
go to
spread?
the arena because everybody was just kind of.
Because everybody was
I don't
sick,
even know
yeah.
the only one going through it. Other people were going through it too. And we got to the game, and I was just like laying in the locker room, just trying to like conserve all the energy that I had. I was like, I can't go out there and run around. I was like, let me just be still, be silent. I remember sitting on the bench before we started warm-ups, and Coach J came next to me. She was like, well, she was like, this is MJ flu game. That's all it is. It's just MJ. She's like, be MJ. And I was just like, trying to like hold in my vomit. Yep. So yeah, I came out and like, I think I had 20 something. And
I'm pretty sure you had 28.
And
we
you
flipped it on.
made it through the whole game feeling well enough to still play. You just powered through it.
Pretty much. I mean, I felt terrible. Like it was really like when your adrenaline's so high and you know it's on the line, it's like we want to get to the Final Four. It's like suck it up, like play, compete to whatever level you can, and hopefully it's good enough.
And no mid-game vomit.
No, everything. I think everything. Whenever I drank, everything was out.
Yeah, that was wild. And I like when you were saying like when you like slumped in the locker room, I gotta find the episode of Under the Shell because I vividly remember like them like panning to you and you're like slumped in the locker room, and it's just like I remember us all thinking like, what the like why now?
So you avoided this virus? No, I can't.
I didn't avoid the
Yeah,
virus. So we
clearly
beat
did not.
we beat Utah in overtime. Then that was our 5th overtime game that season.
Yep.
And we'd won them all. So that was our 5th overtime win that season.
That's how you know you're a good tournament. You're made for the tournament if you're winning 5-0.
Yeah. So we're all excited. We're going to Boston. We get back, and it's just like the vibe on campus because the men's team was very up and down then. And you saw this shift. This is what was super cool. You saw this shift of like people really caring about the women's basketball team. We get back. We're leaving a couple days. They had this big send-off. We chartered, so we land in Boston. I am not lying. As soon as the wheels hit the ground, I'm like...
It was your turn.
So then I get it. I think me and somebody on the support staff, so I get it. I miss like all the fun Final Four stuff. So I miss like the media stuff, like the open practice. I'm just like in the fetal position with all the same symptoms KT had, but... ended up being okay. I was fine in the Final Four. Then we beat Carolina. Then let's just get straight to the good stuff. So we actually talked to Mo the other day, KT, and getting her perspective on it, which was funny because she's like not as like I guess she's
at peace right now.
Yeah,
She's at peace. I was a little worried at like what
17 years ago. Let it go.
Gosh, it was so long ago. But I just remember like getting to the game, being super excited, and then we're just like down 13, and it's like, man, this is not how this was supposed to go. Especially because I think we had all like hyped ourselves up as like, there's no way they're gonna beat us a four time this season. There's no way. And then we just didn't didn't start out well. Then halftime, Coach B, which Mo said, she's like, this never happened. We were not celebrating.
I heard your coach came in and like made up some story at halftime and told you guys that like we were in the locker room celebrating like we had won.
That's what she said.
Coaches are wild.
Which was not true. Which was absolutely not true.
We heard some stuff. Coach B heard some stuff. Whatever it was, it got us fired up. But what can you recount from the Duke game?
None of us, I think it just kind of took us a minute to get into the game and relax. And, it's the biggest stage in women's basketball. But yeah, I remember the trigger of, they're celebrating. And I heard it. Like, I remember walking down the hall and hearing them and, oh, yeah. And then coming out in the second half, it was like, you got nothing to lose. And like, I remember like the whole game, like picking up Abby, like full court-ish and just being like, I just was always like at peace. Like I was always calm, like throughout the course of the game, like, cause I never felt like we were going to lose. And like, maybe it goes back to being a freshman, being young and like being naive, but it was just like, I don't know, like, it was like this overwhelming feeling of peace and we got this, like, we're going to find a way. Like, I felt like we were the better team. I felt we had the most options on both sides of the ball, and we weren't going to lose to them again. Like we had already lost to them 4 times. Like no, like they're not going to have our number. And then it just goes back to like how we were when we were still in high school. Of like this is where we want to be. Like we're at this point. We've reached this pinnacle. Like now, what are you going to do? And I just had so much faith and trust in all you guys, like all my teammates, our staff, because I feel like our staff was just like phenomenal in the way that they prepared us and believed in us. And I hit a big shot. You hit a big shot. They kind of took Lang out of the game, like so that kind of sucked. Then Harper stepped up. She's the Finals MVP. Like she did her thing. Jade, Ash, like everybody contributed in their way. And I felt like Shay, especially like on the defensive end, I remember her like taking charges and like getting a Misty Bass and like, so like she set the tone with our toughness. And then I feel like there was just never a moment of like, oh my gosh, like we're going to lose. Like, I just felt like we all believed and like all had the trust and the faith and this peace and calmness. And fortunately, things went our way and we hit a shot and we got a stop and we went to overtime. And then once that happened, it's like, well, we're 5-0 in overtime. Like we're definitely not losing in overtime.
When we hit overtime, like sorry for you.
So, like, y'all messed up. Like y'all should have tried to win in regulation. Facts. It's definitely over. So,
were there any conversations that stick out? I feel like both of you have come back to being young, being naive, kind of vibing, just feeling like you had it. Are there any conversations you either had with each other or with anybody else on staff or teammates that resonate, or was there just an overwhelming feeling you didn't even need that?
Well, for me personally, I remember early in the second half, and this is like something to this day Maryland fans will ask me about because ESPN zoomed in so hard, but it was a free throw. Coach B, I don't know if it was a free throw or we're going to the timeout, but Coach B stops me like hand in chest. We are nose to nose, and she is reaming me out like probably getting Brenda spit all on my face. And people were like, oh my gosh, I wish it, but all she was saying was like, you're better than this. Like, we need you to show up. Like, where's the Marissa that's been all season? Like, we're not going to win if y'all don't get together. Basically, it was just a very fiery way to get, like, she knew the best ways to get to me, and that was to challenge me. So there was that. And I just, like, but what KT was saying, I never felt we were out of it. And then when we were making our comeback, I was like, oh yeah, like this is our game. Did I expect KT to hit one of the craziest shots
I was gonna say,
in March Madness history? I didn't know if that was going to happen. But when they drew up the play, and when KT had the ball in her hand, when she released it, I literally was like, that's good. Like, and I still can feel like those emotions, which is so crazy. But I don't remember any specific conversations, but just knowing that staff and the confidence they had in us, like I'm sure like every time out, it was probably like, get a stop, get 3 stops in a row, cut it to 6, then it's our game, like those type conversations.
KT, she mentioned the shot already, which I feel like we're going to have to get to. Did the moment feel like how you probably pictured it, like growing up? I know every basketball player pictures themselves in that scenario. Was it real?
Yeah, I mean, because for me, like I can remember being in my backyard or on my side basket growing up and always remembering Sean Elliott's corner 3 that he made when he was with the Spurs. And so I would literally practice that all the time. Like 3-2-1. I would throw it out, 3-2-1. I'd circle around, boom. I did the Reggie Miller, like MJ's guarding him. He gets the shove, boom. Like I would practice, like I was an NBA junkie, so like I would practice like those shots that I would watch the games. And so like I knew I was like ready for it, like I was built for it. I was like, this is what I want. Like yes, this is a situation. Like we can tie the game, blah blah blah. And so when it came off, I knew right away I was gonna have to go rogue because I was actually supposed to pass it and I was supposed to pass it to Riss and get it back coming off a flare screen.
Yeah.
But I knew that Duke they were switching a lot, and so I kind of anticipated. I was like, they're probably going to switch because I came off the first one, Harden got banged, and then I see Allison, and I'm like, well, she's already back a little bit because bigs naturally are going to be in a drop, they're going to be back. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have an opportunity to probably get one off. So I was like, F it, let me boop 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 back to my left, and that's kind of my go-to move. But once I released it, it just all felt right. Like there's really no other way to describe it. It was just like this was supposed to happen. Like it was just meant to be. And once I released it, like I felt her fingers hit my fingers. But for me, I'm always a shooter. I like contests. Like I like being contested. I think they're easier than shooting,
KT likes the hard shots.
So hell of a contest, Allison. Thank you. You probably helped a little bit. But as soon as I got in that rhythm dribble, boom, boom, like I felt good about it. And then the first thing was like, oh like we got like 6 seconds left. Yeah, like I'm like rewatching it, like we're all like busting
like oh
like corrals Lindsey Harding like on the sideline, like oh and then once like that went out, it was just like it was this release, and it was just like and then you had to reset, right? Because we still had overtime. Like we were excited about overtime, but then it was like, all right, that happened. So like the emotions went from like sky high to now like, all right, we got to reel it back in because we still have 5 minutes to play. Game's not over, whatever, blah blah blah. But
yeah, it was crazy after regulation. You can on the ESPN broadcast when they go to our bench, you can't see Kristi because Jade and I think Harp had tackled her. So like the bench had even kind of fallen over a little bit. But no, I mean that was such. Like, when she hit that, I was like, oh, it's definitely our game. But it goes back to what Kristi was saying, just like the confidence the coaches had in us. Like, what freshman do you know is going to have the confidence instilled in them by their coach to take that shot? Like she said, she went rogue. And she was able to do that because she knew the confidence that the coaches had put in all of us that season. But it was a crazy time. And getting back to campus, so we like get to our phones. I have friends who are like, I'm on top of Wawa. They're tipping buses over. They're burning stuff down. And like, don't condone any of that. But it was super cool because it was a women's basketball team, a women's sport that was getting this attention from our school. Like they shut down Route 1. Castro. I told Matt about Castro.
Oh, I heard all about Castro, the legend.
Put it on Castro's tab.
Oh,
what a time. But what do you think about our Terps in the tournament this year? You think they have a chance to get to South Carolina and maybe upset them?
I do. I think, them playing at home, I think they're going to take care of business. I know the fans are going to come out and support. They're going to have that home court advantage for sure. And I'm looking forward to them playing South Carolina because I think, Diamond wasn't playing the last time. That was a long time ago. That was back in November. But I think we got a chance. And I'm just, we are always having that underdog mindset mentality. I think that goes in our favor. And obviously South Carolina is arguably one of the best teams to do it. They're undefeated. They have a chance to win a championship, first since Pat Summitt's group. So I like our chances. I like if we come with the right mindset, just compete our asses off, leave nothing on the floor. I don't see a reason why we can't. We got to make shots though. I know we got to make shots and defend. But it's March. March is when the crazy things happen. So anything can happen.
Literally. Who do you have for your Final Four?
I think I ended up having Indiana, Iowa, Maryland. Of course, I'm picking Maryland, and UConn.
Okay.
And I looked at it like, because when we were in the Final Four, it was all ACC teams and then one SEC team. So I was like, all right, now we'll go Big Ten, have 3 of those guys in there, and then one Big East. So
solid Final Four. All right, KT, we've kept you long enough. We appreciate your time. Go Mavs, go Terps. We appreciate you.
Thanks for
Let's get some
hanging,
Mavs some
Kristi.
wins.
Back in the